I'm your host, Cindy Marie. Our next guest, she is a socially conscious entrepreneur, disability advocate, inclusion ambassador, motivational speaker, and a life coach. She is also a writer, encourages embracing raw emotions. As a counselor, she offers motivation and hope, and as a teacher, she imparts exercises for inner growth. Through her inspiring journey or story, she both empowers and becomes a source of inspirations, which I cannot wait for her to share her incredible story in the will to live with unknown. Let's all welcome Alma Chopra. Alma, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Cindy Marie. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you. I appreciate the honor so much to be able to extend you facilitating my ability to reach new ears that my story may touch, and maybe I can help.
Yes, for sure. I'm super excited for that. So let's dig in, Alma. For many people that have yet to hear or listen or to watch you as well, your journey, your story of being diagnosed with this, now I know, rare condition of cerebellar ataxia. Could you share with us your journey with that and a little bit information about the cerebellar ataxia, so that you know that I was being honest with you in the beginning that I have zero clue what this condition is all about. So I think it's pretty important for many people watching or listening right now to also sort of have that a little bit awareness, and they can take their much time to research more on their own time when the moment they hear your story. Could you share with us your story?
Sure, definitely. So let's start with what is ataxia? So ataxia is basically a movement disorder. It's damage that occurs to your cerebellum, which is at the base of your skull, and that is responsible for the coordination and balance of all your muscles, right from your eye muscle to your toe muscle. So there are three types of ataxia. There's acquired, hereditary, and degenerative. The most popular type right now is the hereditary or genetic type, which is called Friedreich's ataxia. But ataxia can be acquired, multiple sclerosis, a spinal cord injury, a brain injury, a tumor, a stroke, genetic disorders, so it's like ataxia is usually a symptom to a larger diagnosis or prognosis. So to give you and our listeners a little bit of a gauge of the rarity of ataxia. So let me put it in perspective. We have about 8 billion people on this planet. 17 million of those people have cerebral palsy. We have about 20 million of those people have cancer. And we have a mere 25,000 with ataxia. So that kind of quantifies how rare ataxia is. That helps put it in a little perspective. Now, going into my story, I was fairly lucky to have the rarest kind of ataxia, which is acquired and kind of degenerative. When I was diagnosed, they didn't know any etiology, which means they don't know where it came from or how my tissues were damaged, and I had no prognosis. So they weren't able to tell me from the outset, she'll be in a wheelchair in 6 years, or she'll start having these difficulties, which made it very difficult for me and my parents to experience this, kind of like going day by day, not knowing what to expect. Okay, so when I was diagnosed, I very luckily didn't have a defeatist attitude. You could say because of the ignorance of my age, or you can take because of the optimism that was inbuilt in me. My initial reaction to the diagnosis was, oh, okay, cool, I have the mutant gene. That means I must have superpowers. So at this time, there was a couple of shows that were really popular. One which was the X-Men. Another was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, both of which stressed the point of mutation and how because of it you develop superpowers. That was my initial reaction. It took a couple of years for the reality to set in. Right. So I was a preteen when I was diagnosed. By the time of my early teens, the difficulties set in, the hardships set in. So one of my memories that were one of the earliest memories that I have that kind of brought reality in front of us was my family and I drove from my house to Key West. So I lived in New Jersey at that time. And if you're aware of the map of the United States, I was going to the southern tip of Florida. So that encompasses almost the entire east coast of the United States. So it was a fairly long drive. But I remember on the way back, and of course we stopped, sightseeing and things like this. But on the way back, I remember that we stopped by for dinner, and it was that time I even had trouble getting out of the car. I couldn't maintain my balance. I was like shaking, trembling. At that age, I used to wear high heels, 3 to 4 inch high heels.
Wow.
I wasn't able to wear my shoes. When I tried serving myself dinner, my hand was trembling. And it was at that point my speech started getting slurred. I've undergone speech therapy a couple of times, which has put me in a better position today. But when I get fatigued, my symptoms worsen. So that was my earliest memory of when, my symptoms got really bad. Over the years, my symptoms, I've learned to deal with my symptoms through, physical therapy, speech therapy, working on my emotions, and just things like that, but just help me deal with my symptoms and not getting overly fatigued with nuances that come from the outer world.
And so just to continue on the journey of your story, up until now, has it occurred to you to have that, or I'm guessing that you have this intention of that curiosity of what else can I do? What else do I can understand about this condition? So for example, for me, just to give you an idea, my condition is not as compared as yours. Mine is more on myoma and fibroids. So there are a lot of, it's also genetic. And one of the things that I try to dive in more information is like, what else can I do in natural way to reduce the increase of the growth of the fibroids? It's a cells that growing unstoppable inside my womb. And through that, I learned more about healthier lifestyle. And so my curiosity, next question to you is that, does it occur to you to understand how can I minimize, or is there anything that you can minimize the symptoms, or it's just through the medicine?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, let me back up a little bit. So when I was diagnosed, I was going through schooling. I was like, personality-wise, very social, very outgoing, very kind of vibrant, loud kind of personality. But then like being diagnosed in your teens is really tough because that's the time in your life when you want to try to be the same. You try to assimilate rather than, you know, picking out differences. So I had an inherent difference, you know, that I think at that point of time, what I did, because I knew that I had an inherent difference, and at that age, people are more inclined to stick with the known and with what they're familiar with. I excluded myself before they had a chance to reject me. So I became reclusive, I became introverted, I became quiet, and I became, thus I became more focused on my studies, which I excelled at, my creative abilities, which I excelled at. So while outwardly I was going through a lot of trials and tribulations, I turned inward, and my energy is focused inwards.
Yeah, I can fully agree with you at that moment. So to continue, since now it's been years as you kind of more know what to do, and my assumption or my guessing will be, before you being diagnosed with this condition, your understanding the meaning of life totally different from where you are right now. So my question to you is that how much did it change from there on, your understanding the meaning of life?
I think my meaning of the definition I have given life is ever evolving. Meaning, I think when I was diagnosed, it was one. When I was going through the trials and tribulations, that was another, and now it's another. So let me retrace my steps. So when someone, and in this case me, is diagnosed with a life-changing or life-threatening disorder or disease, you basically have two options: to live and die, to live or to die. Meaning you can live despite it, or you can live because it. Living despite it means living regardless of your limitations, living with the thoughts of moving forward. Living because of it is always trying to find a cure, and that's the main purpose of your life. So when I was diagnosed, I was really too young to understand the implications of the diagnosis that it had on my life and the quality of my life. While I was going through the trials and the tests of my diagnosis, I think my meaning of life was living because of it. So I was slowly dying. My parents ran along with me. We were running for answers, looking for cures, doing research, and I was pulled out of school. I was, given, leniencies to make me feel like I was special, that I was, like exactly what I didn't want, that I was different, that I needed special attention. Now, if you ask me what is my meaning of life, it's totally changed. So now I'm at a point where I'm living despite my challenges. I've overcome the fears, the hesitations, the stigma of what I have, and I'm able to live and enjoy life without having to always think about what's the cure, how much, if I don't get cured, I won't have a family. If I don't get cured, I won't have a career. I'm trying to have a career, have a family, have friends, whatever it is, even though I have a physical diagnosis, which is truly hard to do. So when people don't have the support, the energy, and the will, which I didn't have when I was a teenager, you generally succumb to living life because of your disability, right? Always trying to find that cure or that way out so you can continue on your normal life. But because because I've been able to overcome basically the notion of my disabilities holding me back. I'm now able to live happily knowing that I have a disability and my disability doesn't define me anymore. So if you really understand that, and if you can appreciate that, if you take anyone with a challenge, whether it be yourself or whether it be me, once that person can live, I mean, truly live, without their challenge becoming their fear or their hesitation. These are the stories you read. This is when the boundaries are redefined. This is when history is made, right? Like, for example, you started a podcast because maybe of your personal challenges, right? And now you've been able to, your fibroids or whatever issues you have, you've been able to turn that around. Instead of focusing on yourself, you can say, how can my story help others? And that's the point where I'm at as well.
Beautiful. And in the introduction, I mentioned that you encourage or embracing raw emotions. Could you share a little bit about that? What do you mean of raw emotions?
Yeah. So when I was going through this, one of my creative abilities was writing poetry, and I started writing right about the time when I was diagnosed. So early teens. And poetry became cathartic for me. It became my best friend. It didn't let me feel that, she's a teenager, and teenagers are supposed to be in cliques, and they're supposed to have friends, and they're supposed to go out on the weekends and have sleepovers. Poetry didn't allow me to feel that isolation. So when I felt like I had to release my emotions, or I felt lonely, I turned to poetry, and poetry held my hand actually all through my teenage years. And it actually, in turn, poetry was kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, in that I gave so much energy to poetry, but in turn, poetry gave me so much energy by awarding me self-confidence. So that was my experience with raw emotion, and now I'm an advocate of feeling your emotions. Like, a lot of people bottle their emotions up and try to suppress their emotions, but your emotions and really understanding where they come from, I think that is the healing path.
Yeah, I agree with you. If I can share with you my story about raw emotions on suppressing and repressing. I remember when I was up until late 20s, I actually trying to repress all of this, I would say, drama, if we can call that, because many people would take that as a drama. You don't want to deal with it because you don't know how to deal with it, and you don't want to see yourself, as many people would say, weak. And so eventually I would say I suppress many times, but at the same time, I have this easy way to cry when I am really in emotional situation. But when, in front of many people, I try not to, because of field of my work as well. But then as of this moment, I recognize that showing your vulnerability, showing that your emotion of whatever you're feeling, it could be your enthusiasm, or if you're angry, whatever, I'm a big advocate or firm believer that express it, and don't be embarrassed with what you're feeling, because that's part of who you are. That's part of your uniqueness. So I'm glad that, I asked that question, the raw emotions, and you also sort of integrate that from your story on the poetry. I think many of us actually has this creativity within us, that somehow as we grow older, we tend to filter that because of the condition of the society, right? Now, the next question that I'm going to ask you, you also speak a lot of, obviously, you advocate with the disability. You talk about a lot about self-care or self-love, a special or a very vital role for people with disability, which I would say it's not only for people with disability, but I'm super curious, why do you think that self-care or self-love is super vital role for people with disability?
So, firstly, like you said, self-love is not vital only for people with challenged abilities, but self-love is really important for everyone. Now, I'll give you my example. When I was diagnosed and through my teenage years, I was very ashamed. I felt guilty, led to feelings of anxiety, depression, so I didn't love myself. Now, there came a point, I would say, in 2014, when I started my work, when I started loving myself. I started appreciating myself. I started believing that, I had a point, I had a reason for living. There was a purpose behind all of my pain. So the bottom line is, when this self-love was ignited within me, the tables turned again, from me having a disability, right? Connoting that it was less. It transformed from a disability to a different ability. So I think that's what self-love has the power to do. When you appreciate yourself, when you can love yourself for whatever you can or maybe can't give, when you feel you're worthy, that's when the tables turn, when your reality shifts. That's when you can start receiving rather than always trying to give out and not getting anywhere. So self-love is vital and I think anyone's aspect.
Yeah, I think for people who have diagnosed with any serious condition, I mean, of course, I don't know how it feels, but I could just guess that it's really not so pleasant emotions. And you have a lot of question mark, like why? And then so you tend to, in my experience, is also some documentaries that I have watched, some people will tend to separate themselves because they have this condition. They don't want to be a problem or burden for many people. And I think what I'm trying to say here is that also for people who have, I mean, no particular disability or different abilities, self-care or self-love is not a selfish act. It's actually, especially for purpose-driven people like us, we have to have that space, because if we keep on giving and giving without recharging, re-energizing, and reset, it's not fair, I would say. In reality, we're not giving the ideal or the proper, say, purpose of your help if you don't start with yourself. As what everyone's saying, you have to put your mask first, then you can help others. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing with our lives. It's that for many people to be helped or to be assisted, first is that we have to love ourselves. And how to love ourselves is to forgive ourselves with whatever that we are encountering at this moment, that it is okay where we are. It's not a burden. There's something. So for example, I can tell that there is a reason, and I would say you have a superpower with you that the universe has gifted you. And of course, it doesn't look nice, but I am super happy that you shifted, that you have actually a mission. You are given as a tool from the highest power to be the leader, to be the voice that you can. There's still a life, even though it's unknown. You can still choose to be somebody to make an impact and empower other people's lives.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. I think that self-love component that we're talking about is true whether you're Black, whether you're white, whether you're able, whether you're disabled, whether you're happy, whether you're, you know, it applies to everyone basically. Whether you're a teacher, whether you're a student, you know, I think turning your energies inwards opens a lot of doors. Not only does it re-energize you, but it allows you to look at things from different perspectives. Right. So right now in the world, I would say a lot of people aren't inclined to do self-love because of the reasons you just laid out, right? There are people, especially with some challenges, they feel like a burden. They're always wallowing in and self-pity, like why me, right? Which is something I definitely went through. And I think, you know, so there is no self-love there. But once, like for me, once those energies turned inwards and I appreciated myself and I realized that not only does everyone have a purpose, but I have a purpose too, even if I can't contribute economically, or if I can't contribute socially, or, you know, I need help walking from here to there, or I can't read as much as my counterpart, or I can't perform certain acts. Once you realize that you are important, then you can allow yourself to put that energy into you. And once you put that energy into you, just like what I'm doing and what you're doing and what many coaches are doing, you can start looking outwards and you can start helping other people, right? But until you experience that self-love and believe you're truly worthy, you're not ever going to be in that position to go from, oh, I'm a burden, to I'm lessen someone else's burden.
Beautiful.
Or I can lessen someone else's burden.
Yeah, that's gold when you mention about that you are worthy. I think in our situation, I mean, has been conditioned for many years that we are so validating our self-value through the external. And I just want to reiterate and re-stress what Alma just said. Regardless of your situation, your status in life, or your ability, you are indeed enough. I'm a big believer that we do have certain gifts, talents that only dedicated to us, and we have yet to unlock that. That is the gift, actually, that's for us to unlock it and share to people. And but it has to start of loving ourselves in any way, whether you're feeling like, oh, I'm so ugly, or I have so much white hair, or I look awful, whatever. Love every part of yourself, because you are not born here disabled, if I can say that, but you're born here with unique you. You are beautiful enough. So thank you for sharing that, Alma. And my next question to you, you know, I'm not sure, and this question that I'm gonna ask you is somehow curiosity. At moment, do you experience some down emotion, like questioning yourself? Do I really do I really can do it? Do I really have this long years to live in life and keep on, or do I even make an impact? Because I don't know, I mean, sometimes I can be honest here that sometimes I have that question, but there's just this sense of energy that flows in me, that's telling me in very subtle voice that yes, you're making an impact. So I continuously waking up every morning, and then yes, I can do it. So I'm curious hearing your story or your point on that.
Well, yeah, I think everyone, and I am no exception for this. I think everyone faces down days. Maybe mine are a little bit more severe because my emotions do affect my physical body. So when, for example, when I'm sad or upset, or when I'm thinking a lot, I do my balance, my coordination, my eyesight, my speaking abilities, they do get fatigued, meaning my balance gets worse and my speech gets a little bit slurred, etc., etc. So, but that being put aside, I think these down, so like everything is goes up and down, right? So
Yeah.
everyone has down days, but you also have up days, right? So when I have down days, how do I get out of my down days? It comes back to self-love, right? It comes back to my faith, which I'm very spiritual. So early on, I developed a kinship to spirituality, and now it's just stronger. So I have an inherent belief that not only me, but everyone is here for a reason. So putting the spotlight on me, I have very limited physical input, meaning I can't really function at a normal job just the way you can. I can't read, like I went to law school, but it was very hard for me because sometimes my eyes get really fatigued. So I couldn't read law books as effectively or as quickly as my counterpart should for the exams, right? But that being said, even though you feel like you can't contribute economically or academically or socially, which has put me really down when I think about it. This is a huge world, and even though you don't see your impact, everyone has an impact. Whether it's everyone has a purpose to their life, whether it's helping someone, whether it's making someone smile, whether it's whatever you can do or whatever you can't do, that God has, the abilities God has given you, it's all for a reason, right? To fulfill your purpose. So when I am down, that's what I think about. Maybe I can't contribute to getting a job, but I can contribute to making someone smile. I can contribute by going to the gym and inspiring people to work out and get in good shape, right? So there's always a give and take, but your every action will always have a reaction. And like that self-love, once you love yourself and can appreciate yourself, I think you can I think you'll be able to believe that what I'm saying, that your actions going out into the public, doing whatever you can, trying to walk even if you can't, trying to socialize even if you can't, trying to conquer your fears, not knowing if you can. I think once that self-love is there, that I'm here for a reason, I deserve to be here. I was put here, and no one in this world is more special than me. I think that's when you can come out of your down days and say, okay, let me work with this, let me fight this, I'm here, so let me do whatever I can.
Beautiful, beautiful. Do and be the best you can every day. And
Yeah.
because of that, Alma, I'm super curious. I'm super glad as well to know that you have all from the young age of this spiritual journey, because I'm also a big believer. It's a cycle, so it includes the spiritual journey. And I'm curious that in terms of optimism, because you mentioned that in the journey of your story, how do you keep yourself optimistic, and what do you suggest for people to sort of open, experiment, and embrace a different perspective for those people who don't believe the optimism theory or
Okay,
aspect?
so my source of optimism has shifted a little bit. So when I was younger, my optimism came from family support, from my academic achievements, from my creative abilities. Then when I hit my early 20s, my optimism came from another source, which is faith. And that's when I started developing the realization that not only me, but everyone is here for a reason. So the biggest reason I used to hate on myself was because even though I was competent in academics, I couldn't really see a future for myself, right? I had very minimal friends. Even now, I look at my counterparts excelling at careers, having families, things that I can't have. But what keeps me going now, a strong component of what keeps me going is the faith, right? That I'm here. Maybe my purpose here is not to have 3 children. Maybe my purpose here is not to be a partner at a law firm. Maybe my purpose here is not to be a first woman president, which I wanted to be when I was younger. Maybe my purpose here is not to be the first astronaut on Jupiter, right? But I do have a purpose, right? And however small, however minuscule it is a purpose, right? So you can extrapolate this, right? So there's a blade of grass. Now we have acres and acres and acres and multitudes of acres of grass on this planet. But there's one blade of grass, and someone had to plant that grass there and, conceptualize it. So you can think every small pebble that you throw causes a reaction. It's a ripple effect, right? So one small pebble, it can change the tides of the ocean, right? So however minuscule your abilities are, or your fear is, once that self-love is there, and that faith, which makes me look forward to the next day, I can understand that whether it's going to the gym or giving someone a helping hand, or just sharing my story with someone maybe who can resonate and may find inspiration, maybe that's my purpose.
And could you share like a practice or routine that you do? I mean, so break it down of having this faith. So when you say about having this faith, do you have some practices that you normally do?
So when I say I have faith, my practices come from self-affirmations. I do a lot of meditations. I've seen the changes. I've witnessed the changes, the positivity of the energy, I've seen them, I've heard them. So I believe in this energy, in God, and whatever you want to call it. And I practice yoga, and these help me keep me aligned, keep me in tune with my energies, rather than focusing on the outward energies, like the outward energies being the media. What is the media saying? Judgments, criticisms, the feelings of self-doubt, of fears. Instead of trying to focus on that all the time, I try to focus on myself sometimes. And I try to feel my own energy, what makes me comfortable, and just empowering myself to believe that I'm strong enough, that I'm doing what I can in this time, in this space. I'm giving my contribution.
Yes, I think one of the things for Asian people like us, and I'm not sure whether you would agree with me or not, but in my culture that I have been raised in, I have experienced, that working on your own personal growth, it's like a selfish act. For you not to outshine people, it's like you better be just average so that you can keep yourself the same community. And I think I'm a big believer, and I speak very boldly with this, that I think it's time for many Asian people to understand that it is not a selfish act to pursue your inner purpose in life, even that is actually costing people that you love, people that you know for many years. Just to give you some stories, that when I sign up of this new journey of mine as a coach, multi-passionate coach, singer, podcast, and an entrepreneur life, I decided that whatever it takes, I'm going to be the person who I am, want to become. Therefore, those people, those events, those anything that blocking my way, I'm willing to let go. And it's not a selfish act, because I'm telling myself, and I believe that for you, you would say the same, but I'm super curious for me to hear what you say, that it's the same thing. It's a win-win situation. When I give myself the time and space to get to know myself better, to pursue the purpose that I'm doing right now, then I can offer more of my gifts to people. And I think I want to encourage people that this is I won't say proper, but this is a great way to really hone or harness who you are being. And it's really, really not a selfish act. And I know that many people, your friends, your family would feel that you're abandoning us. In fact, we are not, or I am not, at least, because I'm doing my journey so I can empower more people, including them, so I can bring a hope that, you know, we can be the person we want to become. But it takes a lot of work as well. So what do you say?
Well, let me see if I can recapture what you said, because that was pretty long. Okay, so I definitely agree. We're both from the Eastern cultures. And I think in the Eastern culture, especially for women, there's a strong sense of maybe community and maybe selflessness. I know in India, there's a lot of stress and joint families. I know in the Eastern cultures, there's a lot of stress on community, the collective,
Yes.
which is, I would say, not vastly different, but the origin is different from the Western, right? So I've had I would say, not the luxury, but I've had the opportunity to taste both sides. So I see the difference in the way people conduct themselves in Western versus Eastern societies, but I also know there's a shift towards globalism, and that globalism is geared on the Western culture, which is based more on the independence, and that more, I don't know if you would call it selfish, but more self-oriented tasks, right? Like being involved in the rat race, making money for you, your wife, or you, your husband, your spouse, and your children, not really contemplating on the extended family or the family friends and etc. So I see that shift, and it's important. And I think slowly Eastern societies are getting there. There is that shift between selfless and selfish, right? Selfish not meaning malicious kind of selfish meaning a more inward orientation. So I think it's important. And when you do talk about, focusing on yourself, and it isn't selfish, right? Because like you just mentioned, focusing on yourself it really enables you to give more to others, right? Like if you're always give, you get drained out, you get burned out, right? So there comes a time when you need to like pull in the fishing rod, retract and regroup your energies and say, and kind of refuel yourself, put yourself into the battery charger and meditate or whatever it is that rekindles your energy, and then go out to fight and face the world.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. It's I love it. You have so much wisdom in our conversation, and I'm super sure that for many people watching or listening right now, I'm hopeful that they are truly inspired and motivated and encouraged, with the challenges that everyone's having right now in this fast-paced world, as we all know. And I'm super curious, and I know that many people would like to connect with you. And if there's any speaking engagement or anything that people want to connect with you to be inspired and hear more of your story, where can people reach out?
So I'm fairly easy to find. Right now I'm based in India. So the first and easiest way to reach me is my website, almachopra.com. So it's spelled exactly how it's heard. That's the first way to reach me. And then my social media platforms, namely Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I have a very visible presence there. So, if you want to reach out to me, and I hope you do, because I hope you can resonate with my words here that Cindy Marie has facilitated, I urge you to reach out so we can start our bold new narrative for you together.
Yes. Oh, so love it. Yes, I agree. If you feel like you want to be inspired, you want to hear someone to give you some stories that it's incredible to be more encouraged, please don't hesitate to reach out, Alma. And I'm also going to put all the details on the blog, on the podcast, on the YouTube, so you can definitely reach out. And Alma,
yes,
before I let you go, since the topic of our conversation is all about unknown, and a lot of people don't, well, not a lot, but many, I think nowadays it's a lot of people having that fear of stepping into the unknown, right? And say just a scenario that you finished walking, right, for your exercise, and someone bumped in front of you and asked you, hey, could I have a minute or 3 minutes of your time? And then you said, yeah, sure. So let's sit down on the bench. And then she said, I don't know why I'm telling this to you, but I just felt like I want to express it to someone. And I think it's always easier to express to stranger because I don't want to feel judged or criticized what I'm going through. And I feel like I want to leave my current job. My family is so competitive. I have a doctor brother. I have a teacher in a very known university, and they wanted me to go for law firm, but it just doesn't resonate with me. I'm a very creative person, but my parents don't see that I can make money out of that. And I want to jump into this creativity, but I also afraid of the unknown. I don't know. I just think that I would. What do you say? Do you have any suggestion or advice that you could share with me?
Yeah. So, my first instinct would be go do what your heart tells you to do. That would be my baseline suggestion for anyone. But it also requires a fine-tuning, because there are other things involved, right? There may be a family involved, there may be finances involved. Maybe if you quit your job, you won't be able to make the expenses. So it needs to be planned and it needs to be timed. I would definitely urge anyone to follow their heart, you know, and be brave enough to step into the unknown, because when you do step into the unknown, that's when the miracles and that's when the super happens, right? But if you continue on the path that you're told to be on, but that you don't really like, nothing extraordinary is going to happen. But going back to the suggestion, that's what I would suggest. I would suggest definitely go for it, what you desire, but make a plan for yourself, right? What are the pros? What are the cons? What are the dependencies, right? Because like I said, a huge factor is finances, right? That is, unfortunately, that's something that we all need. And that may be a huge game changer in what you can and can't do.
I love it. I love it. The practicality and also the boldness, which
Yes.
I also say this to people, that when you're jumping to a huge transition, let's say you want to be an entrepreneur, right? And you feel like you're not there yet, you don't have to give up your job, but you can change your perspective with that job. If let's say you hate that job, you can also empower yourself that I'm doing this because in the 1 year time or 2 years time, I will be an entrepreneur. I will build my own business. And that will give you an inspiration and moment every day, an energy that, yes, I'm going to go to work today. Yes, yes, yes. I love it. It's because I have bigger goals. I have a bigger mission and I have vision that will change and transform my life in the next 2 years. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that suggestions. And I think nowadays we also having this discussion of showing your authentic you. And I think many of us having this a different understanding of authentic you, meaning, yes, you can be real, but not to that extent. Be real to what we want you to be real. So if I can just add on that is it's gonna take a lot of risks. There are a lot of, fears and testing the water, but I think it's always going to be worth it. Of course, if let's say the word you failed, actually you're not failing, you're just learning and growing. When we took that step or chapter to pursue what we desire and you felt like you want to change, it's okay to change. No one making a rule for you. It's all on you. And whatever criticism or embarrassment, whatever that is, it's gonna pass anyway. It's just about a time. So I am totally agreeing with Alma on doing the bold action or bold step, and also taking that practical steps, especially if you're just newly grad, for example. And yeah, and it's thank you for this conversation. I super love it, Alma, and I inspired by your story, by your courage, by your continuous talents and gifts, that superpower, right? You do have your superpowers in your own way, and this is what I love, and this is why we are connected and we're having this discussion. And for once again, for anybody that who you feel connected or resonated with the story of Alma, definitely reach out to her, almachopra.com. That's super easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Yeah. Sorry, you're about to say something?
No, I was gonna interrupt you. I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity for sharing my story, asking me such wonderful questions. Just you telling me that I have superpowers makes me really believe it, because I think everyone has superpowers, but when someone tells you, hey, you're giving me something, I feel something from you, that makes it all the more magical. So thank you for giving me this great opportunity to reach people that maybe My physical space wouldn't have reached otherwise. And this opportunity to talk and get to know you more was truly enlightening as well.
Thank you, Alma. I do appreciate you. And everyone, once again, if you feel resonated with this story, don't hesitate to share it so we can grow organically and we can bring more amazing people just like Alma in the show and to empower your life too. So until next time, everybody, with yours truly, Cindy Marie, here to empower your life. Thank you, Alma.
Thank you.